23 years ago, I came to this town on the 2-year plan, just starting out in radio, and this is what I saw when I first came into town. University of Florida, Research and Engineering, speed limit 45, which I ignored. Eglin Air Force Base, right, fairgrounds. And up here you'll see a sign that says Fort Walton Beach, my town, and Shalimar, the first place I lived. But I passed by this on my way in and I had to stop. I live in an area of Northwest Florida, Fort Walton Beach, Okaloosa County, home to a lot of military. Eglin Air Force Base, Hurlburt Field, 7th Special Forces Base, Duke Field. And this is the Air Armament Museum. First thing I saw when I came into Fort Walton Beach. It's pretty cool. It's right there as you come in on 85 southbound into Fort Walton, Shalimar, Destin area. And this is about the coolest thing I ever saw. Coming here from Atlanta, there wasn't a lot with the military as far as Atlanta was concerned. So I stopped, I got out, I looked around, I said, well, this is pretty cool. I have to come back and go in the museum, which I did. It was really cool on the inside. Not big, but very cool. By the way, Carolyn on my last vlog, co-worker and friend, ex-co-worker and friend, said, I want to see more of the town. So that's what gave me the idea to do this. When I first got here on the 2-year plan 23 years ago. Now moving down here as I did from Atlanta, in my previous job in radio, I commuted from Atlanta to a little town 80 miles away for a year. And then from Atlanta to Athens, which is about 75 miles for a year. Before I ended up here at Fort Walton Beach, I was out of a job. I was looking for jobs. This was one of the ads in the trades. I thought I'd go around. I most importantly wanted to find a place that ran a business like a business. Because basically my previous 2 jobs, I lost belt tightening. My $275 a week salary was too much in Athens, Georgia. So I accept the job at Fort Walton Beach, more on all that someday, but accept the job at Fort Walton Beach. And as I'm looking, staying with a friend, Woofy, at the time, new co-worker at the radio station, as I'm staying with him, I'm looking for places to stay, and I ultimately found a place in Shalimar, the town we're about to come into on our way to Fort Walton. That was on the water, beautiful, converted apartments that had been converted to condos, and they were really run-of-the-mill. There was nothing special about those, but they were on the water. And they were $395 a month. So when I told people where I was going to be living, people at my new workplace, they said, all the way out there in Shalimar? My commute every morning, keep in mind I've been driving 75 miles each way in my previous job. My commute each way, when I first moved to town, was 4.5 miles. Like, yeah, welcome to Shalimar. I'm riding all the way, all 4.5 of those miles out to Shalimar. When I first came down to interview, obviously I got the grand tour of the area and it was absolutely gorgeous, but again, I was more concerned with how do they do business? Do they know what they're doing? And ultimately they did. After seeing all of this beautiful area, honest to God though, it had no or very little influence on my decision to move here, even though I'd always wanted to live at the beach and never had previously. So we're in Shalimar now, heading southbound on Florida 85. Here's these apartments / condos. Used to get off the morning show, do my job. My partner and I would come back here, we'd grab chairs, and we'd take our chairs down to the water by that long finger jetty there that comes out by the no wake sign. I don't know if you can see that from here. That's where my side of the units came out. We'd do show prep, we'd cast a line. I did that every day for the first 2 years I lived here. It was amazing. This is the Choctawhatchee Bay. When you look over that way, the bridge, if you can make it out, is the Destin Bridge and the Destin Harbor. It didn't matter how stressful my day was. Came home, threw my crap down, grabbed my rod, and came out here. And this was just the beginning. So I started exploring a little bit, obviously. It's what you do when you move in somewhere new. Kind of nice right across the street to have a marina. Used to love come down here, watch them work the boat yard. I'd never seen a boat lift before, a forklift. Come down here and watch them put the, I was fascinated by it, put the boats in the water. And then down at this end of this point here, which is now private, but it wasn't at the time, you just come out here and bring a blanket, bring a chair, just hang out. It's kind of tough to be stressed when you live around here, especially when you live this close to the water. All right, so back to coming to Fort Walton. This was the Shalimar Bridge. I crossed over this first time in town on my way in. And you could smell it. You kind of take it for granted after you've lived here a while, unfortunately, but you smell the salt, smell fish. None of those houses were there. They were all built after Hurricane Opal in '95. A few stories from that eventually. And from this point on, it starts looking like a town. We're coming up on the Cinco Bayou Bridge right before you get into Fort Walton, and one of the places used to hang out a lot was right down here. Cinco Bayou. You got to bring your boat up if you had one to the dock, sit out on the deck, have a nice little view of Cinco Bayou. Perfect place for a sunset. You know, when you move to a place like this from a big city, you tend to pinch yourself a lot. So you come out of my little hangout here and you go across the Cinco Bayou Bridge. And this brings you into Fort Walton Beach, Florida. Cinco Bayou. Eventually there's an outlet there to the Choctawhatchee Bay. By this point I'm giddy. Alright, we're gonna go swing by my first office. First location, first people I work for here in town, the radio people, also known as holiday broadcasting. A blessing and a curse. A blessing, best company, best people I've ever worked for in my adult working life. A curse, because when they sold the radio stations, was never going to find anybody to match. Those aren't the radio station's names now, although 99 Rock is. That's who I came to work for. But you see this big, beautiful building, and you see this middle, that's a middle building. But this little building right here, that housed 3 radio stations and a sales department, and damn near had the roof pulled off in Hurricane Opal. It all started in that building, our towers in our yard. Then we built that building. Then we built a state-of-the-art building. Worked here for 17 years. This is Beale Parkway, and this light up here is Highway 98. Pretty famous for anybody who's, well, it goes from Panama City and beyond to, where do you want to go? New Orleans. And this is the beginning of downtown Fort Walton Beach. When I moved here, this restaurant, Staff's Restaurant, family owned for, good Lord, I don't know how long. Since the 20s, when there was nothing else here in downtown Fort Walton Beach. It was the place to go, one of the couple places to go. And it has since closed in the last couple of years. Hopefully someone will take that, preserve as much of it as they can, and reopen it. Now we're coming into downtown Fort Walton Beach proper, but I'm going to skip around it for just a second to take you down this little road. It's called Brook Street. Brook Street is on the back side of downtown Fort Walton. Highway 98, once you get to Fort Walton Beach, is referred to as the Miracle Strip Parkway. So all these buildings you see, they have entrances on the front side of Highway 98, also known as Miracle Strip. And then on the backside of Brook Street, you have the Fort Walton Beach Landing. Very nice park. Beautiful down here too. And a place where I've come last year when I was riding Harleys for the Harley dealership, and this year on this bike. This is where I've come down to take pictures of the bike every year. Every bike I've had. Try to get those uploaded. This is the Fort Walton Beach Landing, and it's just beautiful. The company I'm with now, we do concerts in the park every Friday night. Got a gazebo a little farther along in the park. There's a stage. Well, no, there's a stage right there. Again, you can dock your boats, tie off. That sailboat out there is actually a residence and has been there on and off for as long as I can remember. So many beautiful places to come relax. It's really special. So here we turn back on Highway 98, or the Miracle Strip. This is downtown Fort Walton Beach. A lot of things have changed. Businesses have come and gone. When I first moved here, it was just a couple tattoo parlors and a bar. Now there's a lot of tattoo parlors and a lot of bars and several restaurants and a bike shop and the Indian Temple Mound Museum. Fort Walton Beach was originally called Camp Walton. It was a trading route. Rich Native American history here. This is the considered downtown area. It's fun to walk. Very short, and it can be very congested in the summer. That's why they're trying to do something about the parking. Brooks Bridge Barbecue used to stand right there. Some of the best barbecue you ever had, and it was just recently bought out and the building torn down, and they're tearing down other buildings there to try to do additional parking. Now this is Brooks Bridge. Santa Rosa Sound is to my right. To my left, that opens up into Choctawhatchee Bay and the Destin Bridge. But this is our beach. This is where we go to come to the beach. From my house, 9 minutes, 10 minutes max. Liquor on like a dummy. Obligatory t-shirt places. The new hotel replaced an old, a different hotel that was torn down, rebuilt another one right there. By the way, palm trees are not native to Northwest Florida. Every palm tree you see up here was shipped in and replanted. True story. Our convention center. We're coming up to what is called our boardwalk area. When I first moved here, this was the only attraction, the Gulfarium. They have shows there. Much smaller version of like SeaWorld. No whales, dolphins. You learn about penguins. It's more of an educational facility now. Whoops, nice shift. More of an educational facility now. And this building right in front of me is called Anglers. Didn't used to be here. Prior to Hurricane Opal coming through in '95, it was a bar, sawdust and peanut shells on the floor, called the Pier Cafe and Oyster Bar. Now, it's early in the morning and this place is packed. And the reason is there's a huge volleyball tournament that happens twice a year. It's called the Fudd Puckers of all things. The Fudd, known as the Fudd tournament. It's going on here right now. So this place is jammed with people playing, people watching volleyball. First moved here, this whole facility was just a plain boardwalk with beach access. None of these buildings were here. None of this entertainment was here. None of the restaurants were here. I just want to show you something really quick in case I can't get up to the boardwalk area. This area is known for its, there we go, there's some volleyball, sugar white beaches. Northwest Florida, especially Fort Walton Beach, known as the Emerald Coast because of the color of the water, and known for their sugar white beaches. And that's exactly what they're like. You're not going to find more beautiful sand anywhere. It's just absolutely gorgeous. And we're still in April. This is our weather today. How are you? I'm going to see if I can get a parking space over by the beach. I'll park over here. All right. Just to give you a quick idea of our backyard. This is Okaloosa Island, the boardwalk area, Fort Walton Beach's beach. That's the fishing pier. Destroyed, not completely. Big damage during Hurricane Opal. That building is Anglers. That was new after the hurricane. And this is Okaloosa Island. This is our beach. The Fudd Pucker volleyball tournament happening right now. That was a staple of a nightclub for years that closed this past year and is being rebuilt and reimagined as an open air place. But here's where we go. This is where we live. And I'm not done yet. As we're leaving Okaloosa Island, we're going to turn right on Highway 98. We're heading east on Highway 98 from Fort Walton. Across Okaloosa Island and towards Destin. It's a very short ride, couple miles. In 1995, Hurricane Opal came through. And again, I got a story about Opal for another day. But Highway 98 was washed out between Fort Walton Beach and Destin. So people who lived and worked in Destin and had to commute there had to go north on 85 to the city of Niceville, across Highway 20 to a bridge that had just been completed the year or two before, the Mid-Bay Bridge, and come down into Destin. It was the only way to get there. These dunes that were here were a lot longer now. In 90, like I said, 95. Hurricane Opal was in 95. These dunes were even bigger than they are now. But they all got washed. An 18-foot wall of water came across Okaloosa Island, buried this thing in sand, dug up the highway, and dumped a lot of it over there. That's why there's some really, really shallow areas over there. One of the dunes we're coming up to is referred to as King Dune. It was almost level. And you could see the Gulf of Mexico is right on the other side of those dunes. And after Hurricane Opal came through, it was just a flat line to the Gulf. It was the weirdest thing being able to see the Gulf from here. Now you see a lot of these trees that are dead, but still standing. And you see where they're dead all the way up to the tops. That's from that storm surge that came through. It was insane. Now coming up here, this big dune on my right, that's King Dune. That looks pretty big compared to everything around it. It was twice that size. And after the storm, it was maybe a quarter that size. So it's built up, obviously, quite a bit over the last 20 years. But it was a lot bigger than that. Crazy. We're now entering the city of Destin. World famous sign right there, believe it or not. Crossing the Destin Bridge, Marlar Bridge is also what it's known as. And over there, you can't see it so good here, an area called Crab Island, a sandbar that everybody, I mean, that'll have hundreds and almost a couple thousand boats on it in the summer. Look at that water. This is the Destin East Pass. Now you know why it's called the Emerald Coast. Days like today take your breath away. Look at that. That's the Destin Fishing Harbor straight ahead. Just incredible. So beautiful. This development right here is called Harbor Walk Village. It didn't exist when I moved here. It was just, you know, pretty rustic dock area on the Destin Harbor. Mostly fishing boats, a couple bars, oyster bar. A few years ago, this was put up by a local developer. Depending on who you ask, it's either the greatest thing or the worst thing that ever happened. And over the last couple of years, they've added onto it and built onto it. Now it's more of a touristy type thing. Locals come here in the off season. The fall is considered local season. That's when our local seafood festival is, or local country music festival. It's also when you can come to the places that were built for tourists and actually enjoy them a little bit and be able to find a parking space and navigate. Now if I kept on heading east, we'd hit Destin, and we'd hit Seaside off of 30A, which is another beautiful area I'll take you to one of these days. Then you get to Panama City and around. But I figure I'd take you, some of you who come down here on vacation may have heard of this place. This is the world famous AJ's. Been here for years. They also have a marina. That bimini bar right in front of me caught fire about 3-4 weeks ago. They reopened that bar in a week. It wasn't even finished being built yet. Shucking corn. This is the Destin Harbor area. There's a boardwalk here now. Didn't used to be. This is the Destin Harbor. Condos that I could never afford across the way. And spaced out, I don't know, a mile, 2 miles along the Destin Harbor here is the fishing fleet. You want some of the best fishing you're ever going to get? Come to Northwest Florida, Destin, Fort Walton Beach, Navarre, Miramar Beach. It's fantastic. That is the Destin Harbor. The second place I worked for was in that tall building, overlooking the Destin Harbor and the East Pass when we come over the bridge. Studio, 2 big windows, and we were able to try to concentrate on our job with all the beauty that passed in front of it every day. There's AJ's, you see the thatch roof in the distance, that's a bungee tower behind it. The Emerald Grand Hotel and condos. This strip of land has been contested for a number of years. It's called Noriega Point. It's basically what protects the harbor. It's had to be rebuilt several times. Developers want to put stuff on it, which is silly. Because every time a big storm comes through, it takes it out, they have to redo it. This is my town. we used to park somewhere back this way. Oh, cool, it's parking right there. Okay, gotta do this quick. This is the Emerald Grand, and it's also offices, shops, and our building, our offices started here where it says Charlie Burger Bar. We're now in Fort Walton. I'm going to keep my camera on once I leave here just so I can show you where I work now. Doesn't have these views. This used to be the main entrance, and our studios were right here, and I could look out, and this was my view. The end of Noriega Point, right where I'm pointing. Come out through here, out and through the East Pass and out into the Gulf of Mexico. And if it floats, it'll be coming out of there. The parade starts before sunlight with the big fishing charters. At sunrise, the smaller boats start coming out. Wave runners, jet skis, pontoon boats, paddle boards,